Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Welcome aboard. In the house, we have AVQ numero uno from Brooklyn, New York. Welcome. How are you doing, AVQ? El Señor Radnet, great to have you here. Also, we've got Patrick Magner numero dos from Houston, Texas. We have in the house Lisa Blair. Hello, everyone, from Atlanta, Georgia. And, of course, our Joanne from Los Angeles, California. Yvette Avery Herod, Atlanta, Georgia. Jacqueline Campizzi, Katy, Texas. May Wood from Long Beach, California. We also have Bruce Pollard from Kingwood, Atascocita. Eric Hayes from Kingwood, Atascocita. Carl Cox from Riverdale, Georgia. We also have in the house Lee Grant from Montgomery County. Welcome, Substack. We didn't start late. There was a problem with the queue while we're just setting up. And in fact, if I'm looking at all the signals that are going to you, even though we're live on Substack, according to our backup here, the signal isn't quite complete there yet. But we hope things get better as we go on. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. Michael Rudnan starts with AP News. Worst case scenario of famine is happening in Gaza. Food crisis, experts warn. The worst case scenario of famine is currently playing out in Gaza Strip. The leading international authority on food crisis said the new alert Tuesday predicting widespread death without immediate action. The alert still short of a formal famine declaration. Don't know why. And this is a famine caused by another country, right? Let's say the alert will follows an outcry over images of emaciated children in Gaza and the reports of over 100 hunger-related deaths. This is a man-made imposed famine, and as aid trucks and other shipments are being militarily blocked from reaching the starving, this is a horror. Folks, you have got to Israel. Look, I've got to say this. This is no different. What is occurring in front of our eyes, unlike what the Nazis did it in quiet without a lot of people knowing. You are actually seeing the same emaciated bodies that you saw in the Holocaust in front of those detention centers or those whatever you call them. Where you saw those emaciated bodies, those people going down to their skeletons, those people that were cracked skulls. This is what you are seeing in Gaza now, perpetuated by a war criminal named Netanyahu, and we are acting like it's nothing. Elitsa Slatskin, Democrat from Michigan, went on to the show with what's her name? One of the network shows with Crystal Ball. And Crystal Ball said, if you agree and believe that what's occurring in Gaza right now is a genocide, would you still give the military support to Israel? And she couldn't get it in her heart to say, at this point, where we are seeing emaciated kids being killed, kids starving to death, kids crushed, tent cities blown up by our bombs, that they can't say. I would have had a little bit of respect if she had at least said, we are going to tell Israel to stop it right now or else nothing. They couldn't say that. Again, you look at the bodies In Gaza, it looks no different than you see the bodies in concentrated camps in Auschwitz or anywhere. Comparison, people don't want you to make that comparison. I think you should start making that comparison. I saw a piece yesterday, I think it was on TikTok, where a Jewish activist came out and said, I cannot believe that my country has actually perfected what the Nazis did. That was coming from a Jewish resident of Israel. A Jewish resident of Israel said that. Do you have no compassion for what we're seeing in Gaza? The cut says Gazans are starved from Radin, are starving to death. Here's how to help. According to the Gaza Health Ministry, yourself was one of the last 147 people, many of them children who have died of malnutrition. The death toll is expected to increase, with more than 2 million people in the Gaza Strip experiencing critical risk of famine. There are numerous humanitarian agencies listed in this article that are still trying to help. Donations are welcome. If you can't see the horror in this, what can you see? Welcome, Lisa Blair from, I think I got you guys already. Let's see if I have anybody new. Bruce Pollard says, what makes you think people were not allowing the Holocaust as it happened? Go to the Houston or Dallas Holocaust Museum and learn the details. I didn't say that people didn't know the Holocaust was happening. I know there were people who knew the Holocaust was happening inside of Germany and some even outside. But the rest of the world didn't have the visibility of the Holocaust as we're seeing in Gaza right now. That's what I'm talking about. And my God, how can any of these senators and congresspeople stand themselves as they watch what is occurring? And I would have this same statement if I were in 1940s, late 1930s, 1940s in Germany. Would be no different. This is ridiculous. All right, Steigenberg, welcome aboard. Let's see. Michael Radin says, Eric, no, that's a conversation between two people. Okay, former AOC supporter says that I don't know what that's all about. Let's see. I am asking U.S. Rep and both, E2247 says, I'm asking my U.S. Rep and both senators to read aloud and as a floor speech and in their committee each day of Congress session to get into the record of each. It says, let us put our minds together and see what life we can build for our children. I don't understand the language E2247, but I imagine you could tell us in English sometime. That particular language is not Spanish, so that's the only other language I speak. Okay. All right. Harry Danson says, good afternoon, Egberto. La Hacienda Politics. Welcome aboard, my dear brother. Lee the Bearcat says, what is being done in your local community to support Gaza? How can Hamas even be empowered? It's not about Hamas at this point. It is not about Hamas at this point, Lee the Bearcat. I think what Israel is doing removes all notion. Hamas at this point is a distraction. I'm sorry. When you see what Israel is doing to the kids and women, etc., Hamas is now a distraction. All right, welcome aboard on Substack. John A. Davis, Lorraine Vidal, Lori Catlau, Do You Lie? John, come on in.
Yeah, I have a comment I want to make about that. It's been a genocide, and it has just been ethnic cleansing. Now it is a full genocide. So,
yeah, it absolutely is. And my thing is, you cannot see what we're seeing and not do something about it. And that's what look, I am for wiping out anybody now who gives anything to Israel until this stuff stops. I'm for absolutely zero support for Israel. I'm sorry. And that isn't my statement.
I absolutely agree.
And it's not an anti-Semitic statement. It is a humane statement. We are complicit. We are complicit in the murder, in the genocide of these people in Gaza. And we ought to stop. We are going to pay go ahead.
No, I would like to say, they say 80,000 or whatever. Who do they think are trapped under all those buildings? Nobody is actually even allowed to count all the bodies. It is absolutely pathetic. And at this point, I agree with the International Criminal Court. Netanyahu is he's a genocidal maniac, and he's perpetrating genocide on the Palestinians. And we need to do something about it. And we can begin by cutting off all of their aid.
Absolutely all of it. And it's not only all the aid, but, that and saying that no aid ever gets back in unless Western reporters are let into Gaza. Western reporters are forbidden from entering Gaza. I mean, even Hamas and all these other people let reporters in.
And the only one that is covering it, ironically, in a really deep way, is Amy Goodman, who is herself Jewish, and Jewish Voices for Peace. This has been, talked about since Hannah Arendt talked about the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, and it gets nowhere because we just refuse to really, push for a two-state solution or any kind of solution. And then on the West Bank, they're perpetrating an ethnic cleansing. Any person who is Jewish who wants to colonize and go in there gets support of the Israeli defense people and the police. They go in, they move forcibly Palestinians, and they kill them. There's so many people, and it kill even American Palestinians who happen to be there. It doesn't matter. So, I think that the biggest problem was putting quotation marks around a genocide. There have been genocides since the Holocaust, and in fact, in my mind, they're all equal. I'm sorry. And I'm part Jewish. I'm not going to, put quotation marks and say it was a special thing. There's something in the human psyche that just is able to do this kind of thing to another group of people. And we need to work on that. We need to really work on that. And it was supposed to end with the genocide or the Holocaust, and apparently it hasn't.
Yeah,
anyway,
thank you very much, John. You have a wonderful rest of your day, my brother.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right. I am so concerned about what this is going to do. Look, well, we've already lost world support because we've elected one who has been convicted of sexual assault, one who has been convicted of a whole lot of bad things. That's who we have as president. So the moral decay is just ever rising of what we stand for and what we're doing. We have a lot to recover from, folks. We have a lot to recover from. All right, let me go for what the show today is actually about. The big bad bill. I want you to listen to what Ornstein had to say, and I didn't get it queued up, so I'm queuing it up as we speak right now. Let's listen to what Ornstein had to say. It's a fairly long video, but I want you to hear it in detail. If I need to chat with you, I will do any chatting in the queue. Here we go. Well, the mainstream media continues its modus operandi. When something big happens in New York or California, I guess we can actually hyperventilate on it, just like we've done with Epstein. Well, yesterday, a young man, mentally incapacitated somewhat, shot up an office building in New York. And again, that took over the news from the time it occurred all to when I went to bed. That was the main story. I kept throwing out even Epstein out of the headlines. But you know what was curious about that? And the reason I'm bringing that up is the following. That guy went into a New York office building and murdered 4 people, I believe. But here is something that one should look at. We had just yesterday, we had an Atlanta shooting, 1 dead, several innocent bystanders shot, mass shooting. In Detroit, we had a shooter, 2 dead and 2 injured. In Reno, we had outside one of the casinos, 3 dead, 3 wounded. And in the Manhattan skyscraper, of course, we had 4 people dead, and including a New York PD, an NYPD official. But the only thing you heard about in mass quantities was what occurred in that skyscraper in New York. Wasn't the 3 dead people, 3 injured in Detroit or in Reno, Nevada worthwhile? What about Detroit? Were they worthwhile? What about Atlanta? Were they worthwhile? As we said, we always say that the media cannot do 2 things at the same time, but it also seems like they simply are only interested in covering in detail in this wall-to-wall coverage when it occurs in New York or California. 2 things that draws the ire of many. But you know what? I was happy to see there was something that could get Epstein's message off the screen. That'll take care of itself. But because, again, no matter what the results of Epstein is, it's not going to help your health care. It's not going to help anything. But what I'm going to show you now from Ornstein about what's going to happen to Medicare because of the big, beautiful bill, the people that are going to lose it with Medicaid, we should be hearing this from left to right. We should be hearing this on the TV every single day, constantly, because that wall-to-wall coverage of these gun violence, the 5 gun violences in the area that affected probably a grand total of 20 people every day or so. Bad, horrendous. But you know what? Look at how many are going to die from the big, beautiful bill. Check this out. We'll take it on the other side.
There are more than 18 million Americans over the age of 65. Most of them have low income. Most of them are threatened by illness and medical expenses that they cannot afford. And through this new law, Mr. President, every citizen will be able in his productive years when he's earning to insure himself against the ravages of illness in his old age. This insurance will help pay for care in hospitals, in skilled nursing homes, or in the home.
That was President Lyndon B. Johnson speaking at the signing ceremony of the law that would become the modern-day Medicaid and Medicare programs. Tomorrow marks the 60th anniversary of that signing, as the future of the 2 landmark healthcare programs is in question. Our next guest says the cuts in President Trump's so-called One Big Beautiful Bill that target Medicaid will actually impact Medicare as well. And joining us now, retired scholar at the American Enterprise Institute, Norm Ornstein. He is the co-author of the book titled Intensive Care: How Congress Shapes Health Policy. Give us your assessment here as to the impact of this piece of legislation.
Let's start, John, with the reality that we had a hellscape in America before 1965 for senior citizens and for poor people. And it's been transformative. We've seen all of this attention on the Medicaid cuts in the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill. But what's gone largely unnoticed is that because this bill adds trillions to the deficit, we've had a provision in the law called PAYGO, pay-as-you-go budgeting. And that means automatic cuts in a number of other programs because we're going deeper into debt. $533 billion scheduled to be cut from Medicare over the next decade, 4% a year. And it's going to create real problems, and not just for seniors, because we have a lot of other people who are affected by Medicare. And of course, it's interrelated with the whole healthcare system. So with the changes in the Affordable Care Act, the changes in Medicaid, we're seeing from hospitals to doctors to the entire infrastructure of the healthcare system is under siege.
So tell us some of the real world impacts here. Who are some of the people across this country? And let's be clear, many of these people voted for President Trump. How will their lives change?
You know, what's so interesting about this and tragic in many ways is that the people who will be most affected are the Trump voters. It's rural voters. It's poorer white voters. It's people in small towns that don't have as much of an infrastructure in the healthcare system. We've already seen stresses in hospitals. And one thing that's also important to remember is that it's not just the hospitals that are going to go under or dramatically cut their services. That will put enormous strains on every other hospital. And that means that we're going to see stresses in the system. We're going to see, if you're going to an emergency room, no matter where you are, you might have a wait that's much, much longer. We know that some doctors, if the rates get cut, are going to say, we're not going to take Medicare anymore. And that means people are going to have to find other providers. And when you add to that, we have a lot of dual eligibles, people who are on both Medicare and Medicaid, poor people. The nursing home program, which is the largest share of Medicaid, we're already seeing nursing homes under stress and closing. You know, before we had Medicare and Medicaid, seniors who were unable to care for themselves were either out on the street or having to live with their families. Now, because of Medicaid and its interaction with Medicare, they can go into nursing homes. We're going to see problems all throughout the system that we haven't had nearly as much of in the last 60 years.
Norm, is there any way to counteract this other than restoring the money? I mean, are there any efficiencies, any changes in the system? I know you're an expert that perhaps could ameliorate.
So we might well see. Remember that in the One Big Beautiful Bill, they put off the Medicaid cuts until after the midterm elections.
Yeah.
The Medicare cuts are supposed to take place earlier. And we've seen in the past when this was supposed to happen, that Congress passed a bill saying, no, we're not going to make those cuts. That may happen again, although you have a lot of Republicans who've been eager to take on these programs. If they don't make these changes, you know, we'll see some ability. I'm sure everybody in the healthcare system, all the practitioners, don't want to have it falter. They'll try and find ways. But you start to take money out of a system that's already under stress. And again, it's like the parts of your body, the organs are not separate. If one starts to fail, others begin to fail. With the changes that we know are going to take place in Medicaid and in the Affordable Care Act, people losing their insurance, we're going to see a ripple effect throughout the system. This is not going to be solved by efficiencies or by the unreality that so many people are leeching off the system, not working to get the benefits. That's just plain false. Yeah. It's not going to happen.
Now, folks, before I continue to talk about the bill, I want to remind you of something. As bad and as big a deficit as this bill is likely to give, there is an out that Donald Trump thinks that he has. And if we let up on that issue again, not speaking about tariffs, remember what I said. The media concentrated on Epstein. The media concentrated on the gun violence in New York, not the one in Detroit, not the one in Nevada, not the ones in all these other places, but in New York. But here is a big deal. They don't concentrate on the tariffs ad nauseum, whereas every American citizen is going to now are going to have a new tax on them to try to mitigate some of the deficits created by the big, beautiful bill. And Donald Trump is hoping that he can throw enough tariffs on all these products coming from overseas to make the bill not as bad as it is. And that's why sometimes I'll talk about Donald Trump could win the tariff argument, even as the big, beautiful bill that's going to terrorize Americans' healthcare is kept in place. But again, Americans don't know that their tariffs, they themselves are paying it, and a lot of it. Rumor has it, it'll collect over the next 10 years at least $3 trillion in new tariffs. And that $3 trillion is not going to come from the wealthy people, because that $3 trillion is coming from all of you and then being transferred immediately to the wealthy in the form of the tax cuts they've received. Okay? Now, that budget deficit caused by the big, beautiful bill, Medicaid loss as well, is going to have to be partially covered as well by whom? Medicare. So a lot of the deficit created by that wealthy tax cut, it's not only going to come from Medicaid, meaning shortchanging people in Medicaid, it's also going to come from the sequestration that will happen in Medicare that they didn't have to get closure for, and you are going to pay for older folks with lack of services, with lack of being able to see your doctor, with the lack of your medicines coming out of your Medicare. So when we tell you this is bad, when you hear Ornstein talk about this being bad and what it's going to cause, it's not up for debate. The question is, how bad is the pain? Because we know who's going to bear the pain. As Ornstein have quite made clear, the people who voted for Donald Trump, the predominantly white, poor MAGA, who are his biggest supporters, is the one that he's causing the most harm to. Not only with the big, beautiful bill, as I mentioned before, not only because the Medicare is going to be cut by law that was passed under several past administration, but also because that tariff that you hear about, it's also his people who shop at Walmart, his people who shop at Payless, his people who shop at all these other stores. They are going to be paying that extra tax, again, out of their own pockets. So he's ripping them off by charging them a tariff. He's ripping them off by taking away their Medicaid. And another thing, he's ripping them off by now, for those that are on the healthcare exchange, they're ripping them off because those subsidies now are gone. If you want to know what the mainstream media should be talking about hour after hour on every single corner, that's the issue that will most affect most. And as we talk about Epstein, for those of us that are comfortable, for those of us that are okay, it's great to rub Epstein into the president's face just to embarrass him, because we know the law is going to do nothing against him. He's a president. He has some immunity. And even after he leaves, what is there left? So, I mean, it gives great pleasure to many to see him squirm about Epstein. But what I squirm about is what's going to happen to most of my fellow American citizens who lose their Medicare, whose Medicare is attenuated, who loses Medicaid, who loses SNAP, who has to lose their insurance altogether because they cannot afford the exchange, the Affordable Care Act exchange. That's what keeps me awake. That's where I get do these people know how bad it is going to be? And that is what I think a responsible media should be telling the American people. This is going to be a lot worse than you could possibly imagine. And in a society that suffers in silence, and a media that is derelict and not going out there to pry those suffering in silence, shame on the Fourth Estate. Shame on the mainstream media. But this particular platform, our Politics Done Right platform, will continue to do the right thing and show the pain and point out those that are suffering and will suffer under this administration and under any administration, but specifically this administration. As others play with people's feelings, as others play with the content they get from the Epstein saga, I will continue to work on that which is going to hurt most Americans and try to put in us, what can we do to mitigate this issue? Unfortunately, it seems like we're going to have to feel some pain. Unfortunately, some people will have to die before we actually start the mass outing of those currently in the Senate and Congress, both in state and federal, and get the job done. Folks, we have to start critically thinking and doing the right thing.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand.
We try to parse the news. That's what we try to do. Let me go ahead and I want to address Mr. Eric, because, like I said, I don't answer crap. I hate to put it that way, coming from the right wing. And Eric has a tendency to display a whole lot of crap from the right wing. But what I do want to show is I do want to address it, because we do have MAGA folks who still have a functional mind that will listen to some of our podcasts. Okay. So Eric says everyone gets a tax cut, as if he's saying something grandiose. Let's be clear. This is what the tax cuts look like. The bottom 20% loses 2.7% of what they make. Okay? And the bottom 20, the next 20%, they get a 0.2% increase in their income. The next percentile, the top 20%, gets a 2.3% raise, let's say, in their income. And the wealthy, the top 1% gets a 4.5% increase. So it's not only that they're getting many times the increase, but it's also that their volume, the amount of money they make, is so huge that they are collecting millions of dollars in tax relief, our money. Now, I want to point out something else that Eric is not critically thinking about. You know, those people that are going to make less money, there are other things that they're going to have to pay now. They've lost their health insurance. Okay? That doesn't count anymore. They've lost their SNAP. They've lost their Medicare. They've lost their nursing homes. Let's be clear here, folks. Donald Trump screwed the people most devoted to him, because they make up the lower parts of this graph here. Remember that, and let's put it in words. Here it is in words. The bottom 20% lose between 2.5 to 2.9%. In other words, $700 a year. The middle, they are flat. The top 20%, they gain $5,700 to $6,500 a year. They gain. And the wealthy, tens of thousands of dollars they've gained. And we have Eric that is, everybody get a tax cut. Everybody get a tax cut. They get a tax cut, but they get a tariff that's going to murder them. The tariff alone takes away all the tax cuts plus more. Critical thinking, folks. Critical thinking. Critical thinking. Carl Cox says Trump is like the late Epstein, is a sexual predator. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that Trump is immune from persecution. Shows that morals the conservative majority has. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. E2247 said overwhelmingly huge numbers of so-called tax cuts will vanish by sunset provisions after 2026 midterm. Very important statement that Mr. E2247 says. And that is that the no tax on tips ends in 2028. No tax on tips ends in 2028. But all the other tax cut for the wealthy people remains. Bruce Fowler says we need a name for ignoring the genocide of Palestinians. I'm waiting for you to give me that name, my dear brother. I'm waiting. All right. Rudnin also wants us to know that this is what it looks like. The crime, the mass shooting increases under Donald Trump is pervasive. There you go. We can see how it has gone up under Brother Trump. So much for being the law and order president. So much for seeing the law and order president. All right, let's see what else we've got here. By the way, nothing, nobody should believe anything coming out of the White House as far as your website, or the Senate as far as your website, or the House as far as your website. You have to go to independent sources. You have to go to independent sources. You never saw me trying to make what's on Biden's website what I want to call as what people need to actually see. It's very important. It's very important. All right, folks, let's see here. Ray Brackens, talk to me.
Yes, brother. I was actually listening this morning, and I wanted to give flowers to that sweet lady and actually reiterate what she said. A little piece we kind of know as the preamble.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it says we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union. It didn't say an already perfect union. It said to form a more perfect union. That means we're progressing, as in progressive policies. Establish justice, meaning we have a justice system that actually puts the criminals in jail and actually gives regular citizens a chance to redeem themselves and become productive citizens. Ensure domestic tranquility. Well, obviously, Mr. Trump has been a complete, utter failure at that, as you stated, with the increase in mass shootings and hate crimes. Provide the common defense, meaning like help out Gaza and help out all our neighbors that need it. Promise the general welfare, meaning look out for the people at the bottom. That's where the general welfare needs to be had. And secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves. That means we need to vote and protect it. And prosperity, ordain and establish this Constitution. You know the rest. But basically, I just took that and broke it down to what that means. And Donald Trump gets an F- on every single promise that the preamble gave us. So anybody who says there's a constitutionalist, especially, I'm looking at you, Ted Cruz, with your little book in your back pocket, you're a fraud, and everybody else who thinks that is a fraud. But I digress. Your thoughts, Egberto?
You're absolutely right. I like the way you went ahead and take out every phrase and put it in common English. That's very important. We have and you know what is disconcerting also, and this is why in this case I do answer Eric. I normally don't, because he comes with misinformation continuously. It is a statement of fact that no tax on tips goes away in 2028. It's a statement of by 2028 it's gone. Okay, that's a statement of fact. He's trying to say these taxes are permanent. It's only permanent for the wealthy. It's only permanent for the deduction. But the other things, it's not permanent. That's a statement of fact. Look it up in reputable sources. Anyway, anything else you want to add to that, Brother Ray Brackens?
I mean, they double dipping. We got to call them out for who they are. All these corporations that's getting this money, they're the true welfare queens, and they're sucking off the teat our hard-earned tax dollars, and we can't stand for it. But
let me qualify something, because one of the things that money does, or your wage do to us, your wages do to us, is it gives the impression that we are getting something from them. Let me give an example. If I'm a garbage collector, if I am a garbage person, I go ahead and I collect garbage around the city. My income is, let's say, $20 an hour. Okay. Let's say that stockbroker that lives in the home where I collect that garbage, right?
Right.
I am only worth $20 an hour, but he may be worth $10,000 an hour. Okay. Is his value to society worth $10 an hour? If I don't pick up the garbage throughout the city, we start to get people that are sick. We start to get infestation, etc. If he doesn't show up to work, that stockbroker, things continue because capitalism is on autopilot. All he does with his job is really to maximize and take away and extract more from the system. My thought, what I'm trying to get across here is America and our economic system does not value people commensurate with their value to society. And as such, if I make $20 an hour and I need to get a stipend, if I need to get a subsidy from the government on which that stockbroker pays more of his income for, he can go out and say, well, look at what I've done. My money has actually subsidized that garbage person. And the truth of the matter is no. The value of that garbage person has not been realized commensurate with his job. While the converse is true, the opposite is true for that stockbroker's value to society. So he is responsible for having unearned income and giving it back to make society work. He's not doing a favor by paying taxes. And this is what we have to get over with the wealthy, with the billionaires. They did not earn it. We did. It's because they shorted us what we are, what we deserve, what we make, what we should be commensurate of. That is the reason why we charge them more. And it is so hard to put into people's minds their worth. Are you a garbage person collecting people's garbage? Thank you so kindly. Are you cleaning out sewers? Thank you so kindly. You are underpaid because that wealthy person's crap that he lets out every day, if you aren't there, his life is miserable. We have to understand our worth. Whether you're a garbage man, whether you're a secretary, whether you're a teacher, whatever you are, you have value. And your value isn't a fraction of the wealthy. It's simply that the wealthy is a better thief. Or I shouldn't say a better thief. The wealthy in general, they are legal thieves because they're following the rules of our economic system. They're legal thieves. And unfortunately, you are the one being stolen from. All right. Anything else before I move on, my brother?
You said it all, brother Egberto. It basically is a society where the better life goes to the highest grifter, and we need to knock these leeches off of our society. That's what they are, leeches.
If you look at the wealthy, the vast majority of the wealth they've earned is unearned, or that they've taken is unearned. And we can prove that mathematically. Thank you, my brother. You have a great rest of your day. Okay?
Thank you for everything you do. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. All right. I want to jump to immigration because of a TikTok that I saw, and I wanted to bring this to you all because this guy nails it. And let's see if I can.
I want to speak to those living in what we call the West. Not to judge you, not to shame you, but to help connect something that's rarely talked about, yet explains so much. Around the world, millions of people are leaving their homes. Entire families are uprooting their lives. They are crossing deserts, risking seas, and walking through hostile lands. Not for luxury, not to invade you, but because they were never given a fair chance to stay. And here's why. For decades, Western governments and corporations have played a central role in shaping the economies of poorer nations. But not for those nations' benefit. Through rigged trade deals, corporate land grabs, IMF loans with strangling conditions, corrupt partnerships with dictators, and resource extraction disguised as development, they've drained wealth from the global south to fuel profit in the north. They took the oil, the lithium, the gold, the cocoa, the coffee, and the cheap labor. They flooded local markets with subsidized Western goods, killing local industries. They backed coups and funded wars, then sold weapons to both sides. They imposed debts that can't be paid back, then demanded austerity while hospitals and schools were shut down. And when these systems broke people, when local economies collapsed under the weight of free markets that weren't free, or development projects that never reached the people, those same people had to leave. So when they come to the West, they are not seeking better lives. They are escaping a system designed to keep them poor. And that system wasn't built in Africa or Latin America or the Middle East. It was built in London, in Washington, in Paris, in Brussels, and carried out by corporations whose headquarters are just blocks away from your homes. So no, this isn't just about migration. It's about displacement engineered by design. So if you're upset about the effects, then look at the cause. If you want to fix what's happening at the border, then start by looking at what's happening beyond it, for generations. Our enemy is protected by your laws in plain sight in your cities.
And he nails it. It's protected in plain sight in your cities. And that is something I said, this guy said it so succinctly. It's what we've been talking about with immigration for a long time. We are the ultimate ones responsible for it. You know, it's interesting because as countries mature and they see what colonization has done to them, they're starting to react. I want you guys to look up a country in Africa called Burkina Faso. It's a former French colony, and what they are doing to kick the French out from stealing their resources, and other countries where but France goes in and mines their uranium and pays them pennies on the dollar. And whenever they decide, whenever these countries decide that they want to take over their own lives, they're destabilized by the Western powers. And somehow at that point, the person who wants to take over their own country becomes a dictator and an evil one. Well, there is I forgot his Ferroria is, I think his name, Ferroria or something like that in Burkina Faso. He is really taking his country over and pretty much away from the French, and is working hard to make it a very viable country, not dependent on the French. I don't know if you guys realize the French colonies used to have to use special money, all minted in France. How the hell are you not still a colony if you don't have your own money? It's amazing. It's amazing. Anyway, folks, we're getting close to the end of the program. I can take a call or two. 281-823-7747. Again, the number is 281-823-7747. Anybody else wants a call, please feel free to do so now. I'll take calls for a couple minutes. If you have something that you can say in 30 seconds to 45 seconds, you can call in and make it be known. But I think this young man that made this commentary here is so important. If we want to solve our immigration problem, we need to solve it based on the economic system that we're sending over there. Patrick Magner, how are you doing, my dear brother? Talk to me.
Doing great. How are you?
All right, sir. All right. And we also have Michael. Let me bring that on as well. Bear with me. Let me answer. Okay. I'm going to connect the calls. All right. Give me 35 seconds. First, let's go to Patrick and then Michael. Patrick first. Come on in. 30 seconds.
Yeah, I wanted to dovetail off of John. The reason why Israelis are acting the way they are is because they've been subjected to propaganda for 20 to 30, even 40 years. 80% of their people are conscribed to the military up until the age of 40. So they're all brainwashed into hating the people next to them. That's why they're able to do the things that they do. People don't usually do this unless they're taught, convinced, or incentivized to do it. I know I've only got 35 seconds. I want a lot more to say. But
call me tomorrow.
This is the direction we're. Okay.
Good.
Well, this is the direction the United States is going with AM radio, with Trump, with demonizing immigrants. Soon, ICE will be going over borders, and they actually already have. They've already arrested a guy.
Let's expand on this tomorrow, and call me out early so we can talk more about it, because I do want to cover that. Let's hear what Michael has to say. Michael, you got 30 seconds.
Okay. Hi, you hear me? Thank you for taking my call. Hey, you know me. This is Do You Lie? And yes, I do work for a healthcare giant. And I want to preface something that you've been hammering on. We just had a big call, and the Medicare is getting cut. Medicaid is getting cut. People are going to suffer big time. We had a very alarming call about how we're not getting as much on Medicaid, Medicare that we can do for Medicare Advantage. It is going to get really, really bad. Thank you all. Egberto, you do a great job. God bless your family. God bless you. Even though you might not like his blessings, I'm giving it to you anyway. And to heck with those Israelis. It's time
Thank you, my brother. Thank you, both of my brothers, Patrick and Michael. Let's talk tomorrow, guys. Okay, because I got to get out of here. But thank you, love you all. Let me finish up the show. Okay.
Sounds great.
All right, folks. I got to close out here the way that I always close out. Please remember, this program needs your support dearly. To support the program, you simply need to become a paid subscriber, and it's inexpensive, very inexpensive, a paid subscriber of our channel. And how do you do that? Simply go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I'm going to put that in the chat, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Please, if you have the ability to do so. I know a lot of people are always asking all of the times. Let me tell you that Politics Done Right puts in the work to make the change. And while we're not going to change everybody, it takes a lot of what we do to make that change. Those of you who become paid subscribers, you get to read all of my books online on Substack, and any subsequent book that I write will be here as well. So I ask you kindly, if you have the wherewithal to do so, if you can get me a coffee or so, you can also consider becoming a paid subscriber. To do that again, please go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I'm going to throw it in the chat one more time. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I got to get out of here. I love you all. And when I speak like this, I mean this. I am really, really into us winning and being the humane country that we're supposed to be. That's what we're aiming for. Anyway, you can support us at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. You can write me directly at info@politicsdoneright.com, info@politicsdoneright.com. Love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.